Whilst participating in sport, a performer will come across 5 major stresses. The first is competition. This involves actually participating in the sport against other people during an event or game in which the performer will want to win after training hard. This increases eustress amongst extroverts and potentially introverts, as the body will become aroused and increase performance, especially if you win. Secondly, it may be conflict. This can be viewed as arguing or disagreeing with your coach, teammates, crowd, etc. It may cause distress as the performer will be over-aroused, angry, shocked, causing a decrease in performance. Frustration can also cause distress on the body. This can involve scenarios such as not playing as well as you have previously done in other competitions and games. This will increase distress and anger, over-arousing the performers. They know they can do better, causing a catastrophe to occur and ruin overall performance, as their minds will be so narrow and determined on increasing performance they won't be able to remember what the actual game is about, and it being a team game, especially in football and like hockey and rugby and sports like that. The climate can also be viewed as a major stressor. This involves the crowd you're performing in front of being hostile, or the heat or the temperature being extremely hot or cold. It can be anything the client is maybe not be used to within the environment. This can be a stressor, as it can over-arouse and potentially harm the body both psychologically and physiologically. Finally, fatigue or injury can cause frustration and anger, as if the client is unable to play at their regular, high-quality performance due to an injury, then they may become over-aroused and cause a catastrophe, as they will be letting their teammates down and may begin to feel guilty or have a burden. Similarly to anxiety, there are numerous techniques that an athlete can use to control their stress levels, some which are more appropriate as they can be performed during exercise. Deep breathing allows athletes to take a break from their sport or exercise, allowing them to take control of their heart rate and breathing rate to their own extent, so that over-arousal doesn't lead to stress and decrease performance through negative thoughts. Another control method is biofeedback, which is, according to the Mayo Clinic on February 6, 2019, allows athletes to seek professional help on how to manage their stress and arousal. They will be able to identify when their stress occurs and how it affects their body, allowing the athlete to develop some coping strategies specific to them, bettering their performance. Furthermore, positive mental reinforcements allow the athlete to focus on the good parts of their performance, especially if they have had a catastrophe. They hopefully will begin to forget about their disasters and attempt to recreate the positive aspects of their performance, managing stress, if that improves. People participate in exercise due to their psychological factors, such as the need to improve health, seek enjoyment, increase self-esteem, and to seek the social aspect. However, one may experience barriers to sport and exercise, which potentially could be someone's age, if they have an injury or disability, and if they have the time to actually participate in these sports and exercises. Personal factors such as income, motivation, and education, personal factors such as income, motivation, education, environmental factors like support of peers and weather conditions, and activity-related factors such as frequency, intensity, and duration of the exercise can all act as factors on whether one decides to exercise. The health benefit theory explains why individuals accept or reject healthy behaviour, whether that is current or future changes in their health. It contains 4 different components, with the first being the person's perceived health susceptibility to getting ill. One can either have a high perceived susceptibility, where they feel they are likely to get ill at all occasions, or a low perceived susceptibility, in which they believe they will never get ill. According to the theory, those who feel like they are likely to become ill are likely to change their personal health in order to prevent it. We conducted a survey across 4 people, in which we found that 50% of the people participated in sport or exercise in order to prevent mental health illnesses. Mental health is a primary concern in the age of the individuals we interviewed, which was 16 to 17, proving psychological factors like mental health are potentially a larger influencer on whether people start exercise than physical factors. The second component to the health benefit theory is the perceived severity, which is how bad they perceive illness will be to the individual should they become ill. 100% of people in the survey said that they exercise 3 times or more a week as a result of attempting to reduce illness threats, proving that a paramount factor to people to do exercise is to stay fit and healthy, so they can avoid illness and potentially, harmful diseases and things like that. Thirdly, perceived benefits are the belief in how effective the advised medicine or action will be towards getting rid of the illness. So, if you have hay fever, they may give you hay fever tablets, and it's how much you believe they're going to work. 100% of people stated that they would start a new exercise regime if they were to improve their overall health, regardless of if it's difficult exercise or not, proving again that health is a primary concern and a major motivator for people to do exercise. The final component is perceived barriers. These are an individual's perception of difficulties they may face when starting exercise, in which can be physical or psychological. Physical barriers include injuries or just an episode of aches or pains, whereas psychological barriers include tiredness, lack of motivation. 50% of people in the survey said that the main barrier they face when they're doing exercise is physical issues, whereas 75% that said that psychological reasons were the main barrier. If an individual had physical issues such as a broken leg, the sport they competed may no longer be appropriate until they recover, such as rugby, whereas people may not compete in sport if they're tired and fear for how they perform at work the next school or day. The theory of planned behaviour suggests that in order for someone to begin an exercise, 3 factors must all be positive and accept the beginning of exercise. The 3 factors are attitude, perceived behavioural control, and subjective norm, which all lead to the intention to wanting to start exercise and then the behaviour of actually starting exercise. Attitude is an intrinsic determination to begin an exercise, so in order for them to actually start it, they must have a positive attitude and desire to begin learning exercising. Our survey suggested that 75% of our interviewees stated they easily could do exercise if they wanted to, proving they had a positive attitude as long as they love doing exercise and sports, which has made them to do so much of it in the past. The second factor that needs to be positive is subjective norms. This involves how involved your environment is into sport, such as how much sport your friends and family do, what sport they do, things like that. As per the theory, if your direct environment participates in a lot of sport, or even in very specific sports, you're likely to pick up those sports than if your sporting environment was not so sport orientated. 100% of our interviewees stated that their social environment didn't affect how much exercise they do, and that they choose to ignore it, proving that it's not a very significant component to the theory of planned behaviour, but a factor nonetheless. People are persuaded to find a sport that suits them in today's society rather than copy those close to you, so they probably have gone out and found things that they have wanted to do themselves, and they're not going to let anyone else change that. Finally, there's the perceived behavioural control. This is how hard the performer perceives starting a new exercise is, and if they have the capability to meet those demands. Our survey suggests that 0% of the people interviewed would be intimidated when starting a new exercise. However, 25% of them said that they would be nervous when starting a new sport, thus proving that having a lack of knowledge and fear of being dominated in a sport causes practitioners to be intimidated and potentially not start a new sport, as of their late start, and everyone their age who have been doing it previously would be of a much higher skill level. Potential barriers can be anything from having a lack of time or not having enough skill, which follows the statements our interviewee said. They believed if one started working on a sport at a young age, they are likely to breed confidence, whereas the age of starting exercise didn't matter, potentially because it's for their own personal benefit and will not be letting teammates down in most sports. The Trends-Theoretical model states that there are 6 stages an athlete goes through between starting and stopping a sport or exercise. The first stage is pre-contemplation, where a performer believes they are not ready for exercise, but do have a mindset of wanting to start exercise and make a change. The second stage is contemplation, where the involved individual has decided they need to make a change to benefit their health and want to carry it out. Once they've decided they are going to start some form of exercise or sport, they enter the preparation phase, where they begin to start telling people they are going to do something as they are adamant they are actually start it. The action stage is the practitioner actually completing the exercise, which is shortly followed by the maintenance stage. This is where the athlete must begin to change and engage with their exercise to prevent them relapsing and stopping exercise altogether. If they fail to do this, then they will relapse into the termination phase. This is where the practitioner quits their sport due to feeling they've done everything they wanted to achieve, or have developed a lack of time to do it, or are just lazy. However, the termination phase can occur at any point if they do not have the desire or need to succeed in their newly found exercise. A survey backed these points up. 75% of people had admitted to being in the pre-contemplation stage before, and the same 75% also stated they have been prepared to start an exercise, but not actually done it, proving the contemplation stage. Not done it and done it. They have accepted they want to change their health and were ready to do something about it. Despite the interviews often doing exercise and enjoying it, 100% admitting into quitting an exercise or sport, entering the termination phase. 2 interviewees said they quit during the maintenance stage, showing a lack of engagement with the sport, finding it boring and having a lack of time and effort to participate in it. Overall, our results support this theory, hence why it deemed one of the most accurate for explaining why people do and don't participate in exercise. If they cannot rise over the initial stages, then they simply will not complete exercise or a sport. So that is the content based of my assignment done. Now here are my here's my bibliography. Here we go. That is assignment 3.3, Arousal, Stress and Anxiety by Samuel Marsh.